there trying to come out and probably just get over to the opposing boxes, put some pressure on Cedar or Zale. And Talbadar is generally the first target they get on. Talbadar eating an early UA dispel, Toe's doing the same. So both Warlocks just trading like we've seen in every single other match. It's all about that early pressure at the very beginning. And look at the swaps on CCs that have Fear on Pooks, Deep on Talbadar, so they traded CCs, and C to A to Poly. Both teams they know exactly how each other are going to play. They're just throwing everything out that they can. Just making sure they do not mess up positioning, because any one of them gets separated without a major cooldown.
And look at Talbadar taking so much damage right now, spiking quite low, dropping out of shadow form for a second to heal himself. That gets cheered though, having to stop it. Looks like Pooks just willed right there, but Talbadar playing Priest so well. Look at that, dropping out, healing so much.
That was surprising. That's one of the first times I've seen Talbadar get spiked that hard. Very, very early match, but they recovered very well from it. And that takes top-notch communication with your teammates. You know, they didn't scramble. You didn't see any major cooldowns blown that didn't need to be. And then so much pressure on these boxes. You know, MLS can trap you on these boxes right now. Cedar he has tied down. He's just sitting behind there with Totems trying to heal out. But Talbadar pushing out into the midfield as Toes backs up to his boxes. And you see Pooks and Snuts kind of setting up on their side of things. This will be good. They're going to bait, if they can, that shadow play across the map. And they really just need to catch back up on heals, because Zale is pumping out a lot of damage. And Talbadar, he's not getting a good chance to channel all the time, but the damage is still there, and you can really tell.
Yeah, and he is constantly trying to LOS as much damage as he can. They know that he's going to be the target of choice, of course, right now. Big tactic change from last time they faced, where Cedu was who they were going on before, when we saw them last. But Talbadar doing a great job. He's going to get throws right there.
You know, and that UA protection here for the debuffs, like you were talking about, it allows Talbadar to throw up his dots as well with your immunity. And that's very, very important for this comp. Talbadar able to stack dots with Zale is one of the most important things they can do in a big line-of-sight matchup like this, because eventually it'll just whittle down Toes' mana, and they'll be able to push it and get some pressure with the Fear.
Now the big thing that you can see right now is they are trying to get behind that box because they're playing so defensive. A big AE Fear right here could disrupt team skill capped completely, but Snuts taking a lot of damage right now with Talbadar feared away, so that was just a bunch of dot damage from Azale.
I'm really surprised that Talbadar did not eat any CC as he was feared all the way out there. He actually gets locked out of his Shadow School. Looks like Azale in a deep, and Cedu coming out of Poly there. Cedu in a safe position though. He's not. Yeah, he has absolutely nothing to worry about as he backs into his boxes. And Azale portals right back over to him. Talbadar staying out front, being aggressive as per usual. So this is going about the way EG normally plays their game. Right, MLS, I think, is playing a little more defensively than generally.
The timing on that Fear was so lucky, because Pooks' trinket was up, but his will was still down for like half a second. Oh, as we see a Fear on Talbadar, followed by a Death Coil, he's going to dispersion and get away. Such a great cooldown.
Yeah, so he's hitting a UA dispel there. That's many that he's eating. It's not really hurting him. It's not setting him back. Snuts has stayed up the entire time. Pooks hasn't spiked really at all.
Oh, but Talbadar, so much damage. Oh, as he's going to be stuck in that. He's right there. As Talbadar, again, that Drain Life is ticking on him because he knows he's going to go out of range, getting that extra tick as Talbadar dropping down and healing. Playing that Z-axis so well on this map. Catching him in the Nova, though. So he's still going to be down low, but casters, you know, they don't have to commit. They don't have to jump down.
Yep, and that was an impact into deep freeze, so, you know, he caught a little bit shorter duration on the second stun, but Pooks really playing around Cedar right now, just trying to set him back a few seconds. If he can even stop, you know, 1 out of every 5 globals, then they'll be able to get ahead of Team EG here, because they're not going to have an opportunity to set up with so much line of sight. You know, you're seeing Talbadar and Azale, that AE Fear is such a good disruption. They really just need to target Cedu more and pressure him into making a mistake, or at least running out.
All right, now Talbadar is going to try to... Yeah, doesn't look like he's going to head over towards the boxes, which is what I thought he was going to do. We see a trinket out of his Zale right there. Or not his Zale. Out of Snuts, I'm sorry. And now Talbadar is going to be casting right back onto Snuts. Looks like it is going to be a target of choice. What's weird is we saw a bunch of Searing Pains coming out from Snuts. It's not something that Warlocks normally do anymore since they added Felt Flame, but it could have been to bait that counter.
Yeah, this is interesting. Both these teams playing like they've played against each other time and time again, which they have.
So that deep freeze onto Azale, I like the timing of that because we saw the wings come out of Talbadar.
They evocated, but Deeplicate obviously trying to get some health back, but taking so much damage from dots. You know, it's putting Toes way behind. You can see his mana hurting quite a bit compared to Cedu's now, whereas in about 3 minutes it was a very different story.
And that's a coil onto Snuts right there. 15,000 hit points. Wow, Spiritling Totem did bring him up very slightly up to 50,000, but every person on this team is now a viable target. Toes especially. Oh, as he gets a big heal onto himself.
You know, if they can get any sort of control onto Sea-Doo, they can still, you know, get on top, get on a Zale, and really do some work and at least shut down that damage.
Oh, and here comes the spikes out of Talbadar onto Snuts right there, able to get those instant Mind Blasts going off. A couple deaths coming out onto Snuts too, but Snuts not worried about almost dying earlier as he comes right back in, getting those UAs up. They're so important to constantly, and we see the second block out of Pooks already. So Pooks is betting it all right now. They know they have to score a kill right here. Toes is in trouble mana-wise, has already tied it.
Yeah, this is a big problem for them. The sub 20k, you know, the amount of damage coming out of Shadow Priest and Affliction Warlock, it takes a lot of sustained healing across.
Oh, that was a great portal though to close the gap as we see it out of.
That's a big fear. Toes getting out in about a 5-second fear into another Howl. And there you go, Toes just dotted up for a while now. He's been eating almost every blanket silence, and they're just trying to put him behind on mana and healing. So far, so good.
So Pooks has no blocks. He just trinketed. We have Toes, who does not have a trinket up. Spirit Link Totem was already used, so this is looking good for Team EG right now. But if Skill Cap can dump a lot of damage into Talbadar, oh, there goes Dispersion, is back up, but he's in the middle of the arena right now. Going to see a good snare onto him, making sure he's not going to get too far away.
Talbadar pumping out a little bit more damage on Snuts, just spreading things out a little bit. You see some dots rolling on Pooks, put some damage on Snuts, a little bit on Toes. This is exactly how they win their matches. I mean, Shadow Play just, you know, melt everybody down with these dots. And they've been having a tough time doing it because Skill Cap's been playing a good line of sight game. But now I think EG is in a good position to push in on their boxes. Sea-Doo's got plenty of mana for any fight they get into. This is looking really, really good for EG.
It definitely is. All right, so Sea-Doo counterspelled right there. Short duration. Talbadar still seem okay. I mean, you can hear the sound of Prayer of Mending just bouncing around so much because of the dots, and that's sometimes why they choose not to dot up the entire enemy team when there's a priest on it. Snuts gets feared away, but Toes was not feared right there. But look at the dots. It looks like they are controlling Pooks and Snuts and concentrating the damage right now onto Toes.
That's all they need to do. Blanket silence coming in. Looks like they're calling it.
Here we go. The damage is coming out from Team EG right now. No timer's up quite yet.
Probably might have missed a spell or two there on that Invis. Possibly could have avoided some damage. If so, it's really impressive. It might not matter here in the long run, as Toes does not have a good opportunity to get any mana back.
So Pooks down to half right now. Also is Toes, and that was a big crossbow damage right there on his Snuts as he gets death coiled. 60,000 hit points left. Wow. It seems like Skill Cap keeps coming back from what seems to be defeat over and over, but Toes is now completely dry of mana. We see a silence onto Pooks. I like when teams will silence the target they're not killing to try to stop their crowd control, because Snuts taking a lot of damage. We see that refresh onto Earthshield, and Toes has 1,000 mana left right now. War Stomp onto Snuts right now. Didn't catch Toes, luckily. But Snuts, wow, 30,000 hit points, taking so much damage still, but Pooks is also low with no blocks. And Toes barely keeping them alive. That Spirit Link Totem comes back up right before the fear. Great timing right there.
Yeah, impressive fear to get everybody out of that. And that's probably going to be a pretty much major cooldown wasted here at the end of this match. You see Pooks almost completely out of cooldowns. Under a lot
they're
of
all
pressure
hurting
here.
so much.
Yeah.
And look,
Evocate.
Evocating, doing everything he can. Toes gets feared away. No answer. Rocket jumps back in. Behind it, and right at the end.
It's death right at the end by Talbadar.
You know what I saw right at the end? I saw a Lava Burst. The only person that can cast a Lava Burst is going to be the rest of Shaman. Of course, everyone on that team casting everything they could.
Oh yeah, for sure. What was the highest damage done was 7k by Sea-Doo. That might have been it. That might have been it, man. That plus Shadow Word Death was just all it took. But they had them behind for so long. I mean, Skill Cap had a lot to come back from, just damage and healing wise. After about the halfway point in that match, it's about a 9.5-minute match. After 4 minutes, you know, it really swung in the favor of EG, and that's Shadow Play for you. Their sustained damage is unparalleled.
Oh, it's amazing. And you know, you see Talbadar dropping out of Shadow form constantly, doesn't have any melee targets that are going to be hitting him.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't too afraid to drop out heal when he needed to. I mean, he was in trouble many times during that match.
Yeah, he was.
Able to stay resilient and live through it, though. As you can see, he took basically all of the damage from, or the big chunk of the damage from Skill Cap. And then if you look on the other hand, because of so much dots everywhere, Skill Cap, the entire team, all took over just about 1.1 million each.
Yeah, it's important to shut down Talbadar, though, because he's got not only a lot of damage behind him, but he's got a lot of utility. So, you know, crippling him in a fight, it does a lot more than maybe just taking away the damage of Azale, because even though Talbot can't spam fear. You know, he's got absorbs, he's got prayers. Like I said, he's got hems and all sorts of other little tricks that can really help Team EG stay in a fight a lot longer than most other teams would think. And usually that causes them to overextend, and EG gets a win. So it just is to keep doing what he's doing. You know, this is pretty classic EG playstyle. Talbot playing up front, being very aggressive. Sea-Doo max range, Zale kind of playing midfield, covering everything, running interference. It's worked time and time again.
All right, so we'll have to see. 1-0 right now, Team EG. That makes it 7 games in a row that they've taken off of skill capped.
That hurts.
7 maps in a row, 7-0. That's pretty big. That's a big stat.
That's a pretty decent little record.
It definitely is. All right, so it looks like our next matchup is going to be on the Ring of Valor.
Yes, the Ring of Valor. This is going to be an all-out slugfest because there's nowhere to hide, really. So it's all going to come down to outplaying. Snuts versus Zale.
Extremely true.
Pooks versus Taub.
On your screen
against MLS, a very control-heavy comp. There's just not too much Toes can do to mitigate this damage. You see Snuts taking terrible
look at that.
damage.
A silence onto Toes with a death coil onto Snuts. They're doing very early damage. Snuts gets that Demon Soul up to try to toss out as much damage as he can. We're seeing a lot of crowd control going out onto Azale, which is what they need right now. Talbot tosses up his wings. Going to get that extra Mind Blast damage, which he needs. And looks like they were going to try to spike Pooks right there. Wasn't that successful, as the Ear Shield was already up on him. And we have a Fear onto Snuts. I like how fast that they're switching targets, but Sea-Doo taking so much damage right now as Pooks is trying to cast into him.
Yeah, Curse of Tongues into Spell Lock. I was about to comment, you know, without Curse of Tongues, Pooks can actually pump out a lot of damage. But with that Curse of Tongues pretty much staying up on him the entire match, it does help EG out quite a bit. Talbot walking right up in his face, stomping that poly.
Yep, he's going to punish them when they're standing next to each other. We see a silence onto Talbot right there, hoping that he's not going to be able to do anything about it.
Snuts getting a banish off, you know, that could help him out here for a few seconds. Sea-Doo caught into a deep freeze. If they can get any sort of CC rolling onto him, you know, maybe they can get on Talbot a little harder here. He's feared out.
And it could have been a waiting game right there on that pillar because Sea-Doo is now vulnerable yet again. Sea-Doo is now immune to Sheep right now for a little bit, but Pook's taking those Mind Spikes. He's going to clear the Shadow Priest dots, but it means that he's going to get that instant Mind Blast after it. Able to mitigate that damage quite well because there's no CC on to Toes at that point. But the team of EG taking a lot of damage, but look at the mana on Sea-Doo. Still doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, and this is, that's what we say every time we talk about Sea-Doo, basically.
Yep, and there we go. A deep freeze into a full poly with a coil onto Talbot. And Sea-Doo still sitting in that poly. Hopefully we can get some more crowd control onto Sea-Doo at this point as he gets out of that Sheep. Pook's blocking right there.
Block.
Well, no, he hasn't snapped yet. It's good. Yeah. And his Icy Veins was down. He'll be able to snap in a second when he needs the rest of his cooldowns, including another block.
Yeah, well, Toes got a good drink off. He's at 80k mana, Sea-Doo's about 55k. And it may not seem like a massive gap, but here, we're in the 3 minute 45 second, about 5 minutes, it's going to matter a lot.
Yeah, you can hear that. Here we go. The pillar is going to drop right there. We see Counterspell onto Talbot with a big Fear and Sea-Doo in Deep Freeze, followed by a Hex onto Azale. Impeccable crowd control. I like it. They're not overlapping too much, except for that Fear and Hex. That's important because Azale linked to help Toes out, but Toes taking a ton of damage as he rocket jumps away. That's why you play a Goblin on this map. Great selection right there, able to get out of trouble.
Wow, Azale feared off for more than a few seconds for the first time this entire match. Sea-Doo trying to play around Ring, fairly narrowly escapes that Ring of Frost. That could have spelled disaster for him if he got caught into more CC, though he does have his trinket up. Still, any sort of pressure on him, you see that impact stun coming in. Pook's very, very low, but he's going to be line of sighting.
All right, now Pook's so low right now, 30,000 hit points with a silence onto Toes, as he's going to unleash and try to wait for it, doing every little bit of healing he can while silence. Pooks, there we go, second block. This is not good for skill caps.
Yeah, Toes just didn't have the mana, didn't really have the time to heal both of them. Pooks calls out for that block, and Toes is just left to sit there and heal himself back up.
Oh, but Snuts out the middle, he has to port away.
Oh, so much
Snuts
damage.
Goes down. Look at those wings.
A solid showing from Team EG here.
And that Archangel, Dark Archangel is just, we played a Shadow Priest. It is so much fun to hit those timers and just blow somebody up. Get those orbs rolling, and just the numbers are so gigantic.
You know, Talbot is having a good time. You know,